Because I have an altered motives.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah. Never let a chance go by.
Hello, Pat. How are you doing today?
Just fine.
Would you like to introduce yourself in a few words for us?
Okay, I am Pat Eubank. I live in Stanley, New Mexico. I am 77 years old, and I have lived a long, blessed life. I have many interests, and I have not basically quit doing things because I'm interested in life. Currently, I have a project that is called My Cleanup Pal, and I have a patent on it. It's actually a toy/safety device it's actually, when my grandkids trashed the back of my car, I went looking for something for them to put their trash in. There was nothing out there, nothing that was child-oriented. So I made this prototype and got a patent on it.
Nice.
And then life interfered, and I didn't really do anything with it other than the fact that certainly my grandkids used it.
Okay.
But now that I am semi-retired, I think it is a great project, and a lot of the profit, hopefully off of it, will go to support some of my charities that I'm interested in.
Okay, that looks amazing. So for you guys listening, so it looks like a dog, and it hangs from the back of the front seat, and I think that's really clever.
And currently I have added a New Mexico tag.
Okay.
And I put a bandana around it and another little pocket so when they get bigger toys or iPads.
And so are you planning to hand make them, or you said you have a pattern? I'm not really sure how that works.
Well, this was back, I had a partner that went bankrupt. It's a long story.
Okay.
But they were made through that partner in China in 2017.
Oh, okay.
So when he went by the wayside, and then situation in my life changed too, they just went into storage. So now I own them free and clear, bringing out of storage and using.
You have some quantities.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're trying to sell some.
I'm hopefully, that's what I was out shopping today with, but I'm trying to get into some craft shows, local craft shows.
Oh, nice.
And I am possibly going to have it on Etsy. I did initially sell some to Volvo.
Oh, huh.
They changed the tags, sent me a PDF file, I made the tags. They used them for gifts.
That's really smart. How did you contact them to do that?
Actually, I was having my Volvo serviced.
Oh, okay.
And I talk a lot.
Then we have that in common.
But then I left Virginia, and then we built a beach house on Eastern Shore, and I was busy with B&Bs, and it didn't fit my lifestyle at that point in time.
At the moment. Okay.
Yes. The profit that's coming off of it is I went to Cambodia on a mission trip back in 2013. Fell in love with the missionary there. She was a sweet lady. And she had spent most of her life as a missionary and had a home there. And she's building a school, and she had to retire because she's in her 80s now, so she had to come home. So I'm going to help her build that school to teach English to Cambodians.
Well, if you do create your Etsy page and put them on, send me the link, because then I can link it under our episode and share it too.
Okay.
So if people listening are interested, want to see a picture of it, and never know, So let me know, and we will share this with the episode.
Okay, all right.
I'm that's the hidden agenda you were talking to me about.
Oh yeah, well that's not the only one. But
Oh, no problem.
the other, while I have your attention,
Yes.
is called Dolls on a Mission.
Oh, little dolls. Okay.
The front side, the doll is smiling, and on the back side, there's a frown because they don't know Christ. You turn them over, they smile. They're all handmade
Wow.
out of scraps. And the original group is in Richmond, Virginia, and it's 10 years old. Last year they made 5,000.
Wow. Okay.
And they're and it has the little card attached to it is the sinner's prayer.
Okay.
And they go on a lot of mission trips. I mean, they go in the I'm sure you've heard of the shoe boxes, the Christian shoe boxes. No?
No.
No. Billy Graham's son, I forgot which one it was, started, lose my train of thought, that tells you how old I am.
No, I mean, we had some sort of shoebox donation thing in
where,
Europe.
where people pack shoe boxes to send to around the
Yes,
world.
yes, yes, with cans and fruit juices or
Yeah, that's the,
rice packs. And,
Yeah, the boxes, and sometimes they make the dolls to put into the box.
oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. We were making them that big, and then they asked to go into the shoe boxes, so we shrunk them,
So they fit, yes.
so they fit in the box. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you have a link for that too, don't hesitate to send it to me.
Oh yeah, they have a website, and the Richmond group has a website. I can get that to you.
Okay, no
Yeah.
problem.
When we moved to New Mexico, I felt like, because we went from sea level, to 7,000 feet, and I couldn't breathe. So I thought I was not going to stay here, even though my daughter and 2 granddaughters live in Madrid, if you've heard of
Oh,
it.
yes. Beautiful.
And so it was like, and then we had to put the house on the market in Virginia, so back and forth. But my health kept going downhill, and they kept saying nothing was wrong with me. But in May, I passed out 3 times within 48 hours. My husband took me to the emergency room. We happened to be in Farmington, which is a little area near the Four Corners that we were camping and fishing. And my heart doctor here said there's nothing wrong, basically. Up there, they put a pacemaker in me because my heart was only beating 3/3 of the time. So once that happened, I feel like God has said, no, you're going to be here a little while longer.
So you said you lived in Virginia, but are you from Virginia?
I was born at the foot of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia. Actually, no hospital.
No, wow. Oh, really? Okay, okay.
Really? Yeah, I had an older sister, Shirley. She's a year older than I, and she was born in the hospital, but I guess the second one comes on like a year later, having money, and of course I've had tragedy, and my father died at 40. 7 weeks later, my mother at 35. She didn't wake up from an operation, and that left 3 children. My brother was 10, I was 12, and my sister was 13. And that was back in 1959, and things were certainly not as they are now.
What did your dad? Your dad?
My father died of a heart attack, and then my sister was a juvenile diabetic, but at 30 she also died from a heart attack, which should have told these doctors that and my brother, he had triple bypass when he was in his 50s.
So you have heart issue
they knew it.
in the family, yes.
Yeah, and I was being followed by doctors in Virginia. They said there was nothing wrong with me.
Wow.
And they just get out and start walking.
Oh, wow.
And I probably could have dropped dead. So the Lord above said, no, we're going to Farmington.
We need you.
And this was a roving surgeon. He wasn't a regular doctor there. He saw me on Monday and did the EKG before we left, and he said, I know what's wrong with you. You're going into the hospital. You're not leaving, because the hospital's next door. So that's when they put the pacemaker in.
How old were you when you had the pacemaker?
Oh, it's just in May.
Wow, so you were 76, 77.
77. Well, no, I guess I was 76 because my birthday's in June.
Oh, mine too.
Oh.
June 2nd.
Oh, okay. We're June bug. Mine's 14th. My husband's the 17th. And we were married on the 11th.
There we
of
go.
June.
My brother-in-law is the 16th. I have a sister. One of my sisters the 25th of June. So and me the 2nd, and my stepmother the 4th. So we were a lot of June bugs. That's funny. Nice. I was going to say you have a really brave mom, but I'm understanding it's because they didn't have the money to go to the hospital.
I barely knew my mother. I mean, when you're 12, you're 12 years old and she's gone, and you really, actually, I missed my sister because I grew up with her. Yeah, she died at 30 and I was 29 then. So they had just, my father was a World War II veteran, and he had just, and when World War was over, she was born in 45 and I was born in 46. And he was a carpenter, so he had built a house. It wasn't quite finished, and she was a seamstress at the local sewing factory. You know, they'd only been married 13 years. So my mother was an only child. Well, that's another story too, but she was an only child, and her mother, my maternal grandmother, came to live with us.
I was going to say, because 12, 13, and your brother was 8, 10. Who took care of you at that point?
Well,
your grandmother.
We kind of took, Lord above looked after us, I'm sure, because my grandmother, bless her heart, it was in a rural area where she would have to walk 6 miles in snow to get to school. So she retained maybe 2nd grade level. She couldn't write a check. She couldn't drive. We were a mile to the nearest grocery, little spot in the road, and 30 miles to major shopping. We had a dear, was actually my grandmother's nephew, that had children about the same age that we were, and he kind of took us places, like if we had to go to the doctor or whatever, he would take us. But it was very hard, very hard. It really was. And I was so I had an aunt that was fairly close, but she and my grandmother did not get along. So I was so happy that in the 8th grade, I learned how to write checks.
Okay.
So I wrote the checks. I went to the grocery store. Sister was in and out of the hospital because they did not know how to control the diabetes. And then when I became 18, actually I was actually 19, but a couple days shy. Of course, we married on the 11th, but I married my husband that was, I'm kind of like a mail order bride. We went to the same high school, but he's 3 years older than I am.
Okay.
But I am at the same age that his oldest sister is. And they had some type of argument going, so he said, I want a date with someone in your class. And he looked through the album.
Oh, really?
I want a date with her. True.
Okay.
And of course, when she approached me in the hallway, I said, sure, because he was an ex-football hero.
Okay.
You know, and sure.
Oh, yeah.
And he wasn't bad looking. He still isn't. I keep telling him he's not as bad. And first date, and that was it.
Wow.
But we dated through the end of that senior year. It was my senior year. And I had 1 year of college. And then we got married because he had a technical degree, and we moved to North Carolina. Moved to North Carolina in June. The government drafted him into the Vietnam War in November. But the Lord above was looking after us again because I went with him because, well, things at home with grandmother were never good, let's put it that way. And so I went with him, and we were stationed for 1.5 years in Kansas. It was the replacement center for Vietnam because he knew how to work on aircraft instruments. So, but he made friends with a buddy that said they need a clerk in supply. And do you know how to type? He said, no, I don't know, but my wife does. He brings home the typewriter one day and says, teach me to type. I said, how long do I have? He says, tonight.
Wow. Okay. So,
So this is how you put the paper in. And he was so good at keeping things straight that the company commander would not let him go.
wow.
Other people would take his place, and that he wouldn't let him go.
And what were you doing at that time?
Well, let's see. I was trying to, well, that's another reason that I love to fish. There was a lake nearby, so on the weekends, we'd go fishing for food. I was a soda clerk where I'd have to walk at least a mile. I don't know what the pay was, wasn't much, but I was a soda jerk.
Okay.
And then, what else? Oh, I was a clerk to check in dirty clothes at a dry cleaners. So those were actually my two jobs in the year and a half that I was out there. So,
Where did you guys go after that?
well, we instead of going back to Western Electric where they would have taken him back, my husband was kind of homesick, so he wanted to stay home. So, thanks to my grandmother, she knew where there was a lady had passed away and the farm was for sale. Because we were only looking for like 5 acres. Well, this was 60 acres. So that's where where the story with the banker, because we had to it was the house about gone, place was all grown up, no water, no bath, no electric, no plumbing. So we went to the bank to ask for a loan to renovate, because we're in a little pink travel trailer. We'd go to work, and I worked as a clerk at the local Roanoke Hotel. We did accounting, and I was one of the clerks that helped with the accounting. Anyway, that's when we asked the banker for the loan, and he says, well, no, you're female, your income does not count. You could get pregnant.
Oh, wow.
So we went to my aunt, who had worked hard all her life, and she said, well, we only wanted $2,000. That doesn't sound like a whole lot today. Back then, $2,000 is a lot of money. So we borrowed the money from her, and we would pay her back into the account. We did that.
Well, you know what? At least you didn't have interests to pay
Well, that's
to
true,
the
that's
bank.
true.
But
Yeah.
what a story. So, and your husband at the time wasn't making enough, let's say, to
Well-
get that loan by himself?
Well, what we would do is pay our aunt from my income
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
and his. So,
But when you said you went to the bank and the bank said no because you're a female, we cannot take your account into your income into account because you're a female. But then I'm assuming they couldn't. Your husband alone wasn't enough.
No,
Oh, okay.
not enough.
What was he doing at the time?
What was he doing?
Yeah.
Well, he, of course, he had a degree in electrical engineering, so the local power company hired him
Okay.
to work in the office. And then I was at an accounting. I tried to be a X-ray technician at school, and I didn't like it. I couldn't relate to the machines. Probably they're better nowadays, but so I was hired at a orthopedic doctor place, and I worked for Dr. Keffer for about 7 years until we had our daughter.
And at that point, you were back in Virginia.
Yeah, well, I was in Virginia. Actually, Virginia has most of the major city, well, Northern Virginia, of course, is there, but Roanoke is in the western part, which is a major city, and you drive in 30 miles to Roanoke to go to work. So. And then after our child was born, I stayed home with Kim for 5 years, and we lived off the land. We gardened. My husband, we had cows, pigs. Never had any chickens, and we would he would hunt for venison. So I would do the gardener, learn by the seat of my pants, so to speak.
I've never heard that expression before.
Oh yeah, well it's typical. Yeah, that's how you learn mistakes. My grandmother was a help, but it was trial and error. And now I got into a different climate out here. I don't know where what your climate is, but
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure how it is in Virginia, but Belgium is pretty wet and cold.
you've in Virginia, in that part of the state, you have 4 seasons, and no season is ever so long that you can't stand it. Out here, I don't know. You haven't been here that long either.
Well, we moved, so when I moved here 5 years ago, we stayed with my husband's mom for 3 years in Albuquerque, and we bought our home here in Edgewood 2 years ago.
Oh,
So
okay.
I've been here 2 years. And I like it better on this side of the Sandias because it's cooler than Albuquerque, but it's definitely either really hot or really cold. I feel like the fall weather or spring weather, we don't get enough of. We probably get like a week or 2 of
Right.
in
well,
between, but
in Virginia, like I say, it's never, none of the seasons are ever so bad or so long
Okay.
that you can't. But where we are, at the foot of those mountains, the wind invariably blows. And I don't know whether you had any damage from that hail that came through in July.
Yeah, a little to our windows, and then when my parents came to visit when my son was born, they gave us a tree that we planted, and that poor tree had a hard time surviving. But then he had made his first leaves, and then that hailstorm it's.
Right.
It's
Well,
not
we
very
had
good, but yeah.
$22,000.
Oh, I was gonna say probably not as bad as you.
It didn't damage the T111 siding, but it did they said it did holes in the roof, and but it hadn't leaked, so, and holes in the underskirting, and broke, the edging of all 4 windows on the front.
That's what it is too. Yeah, it did to us
Yeah,
too.
so, anyway,
Was the insurance able to?
yes, State Farm cut us a check for 22.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I am going to try to find help. In Virginia, you would have an extension agency come out and look at your land and help you plan what you want to do. So we have 13 acres. So I want to do what's called permaculture, and direct, because we're every 10 feet it comes down like a contour. So I wanted to contour it so that we have water coming from somewhere. We don't have water.
Oh, are you on a well?
No, we've always been on wells. Actually, unless we were in a city, we always drill wells. And we never thought we'd have a place where they kept saying, you can't drill, it's gonna cost you $30,000 to $60,000 to drill a well. And we have never, ever paid that much. I told my husband, we might as well just buy a well drilling rig, get somebody to drill a well. It was a learning process out here because we weren't used to that, because I guess the other part of this story is we started building houses. I entered real estate after the doctor,
Yes,
after my daughter went to kindergarten. I got my salesman's license, and then eventually I got my broker's license. And I would start buying land and dividing it up. My husband loved to dig the dirt. We dig the foundation. And this is another twist on female. He was working full time, so he didn't want to waste his hours going to take the test, the contractor's license test. He said, just go and tell me what's on it, thinking I was going to fail. I aced it.
Of course you did.
So I was one of the first female building contractors in the state of Virginia.
There you go.
But it was contracts. And who would know contracts except a real estate broker?
That is true. That is
Oh,
true.
well, there was some math questions on there, and I thought, I was never got good at math. Well, let's just skip that one. or pick C. You always pick C. If you don't know the answer to the question, you pick C.
You pick C? Okay, that is good to know.
Yeah, that's good to know. So for 30-some years, we built, I don't know how many houses, divided land, and my brother graduated from, I need to tell you that one too. When I was in 8th grade, you had to decide whether or not to take the academic route, so you could do all your classes based on going to college, or you had to take the clerical route.
Okay.
And I told the guidance counselor that I just wanted maybe a couple of the clerical type, home ec, because my grandmother was okay, but her way of eating was a little different than others. But bless her heart, she tried. Anyway, guidance counselor said, "You're not going to college." She said, "I know your family. You will be pregnant and drop out of high school."
Oh my God.
She knew we had no parents, but she was painting me with this, and there were other people that had my grandmother's last name, and there were, people within the family, but she should not have painted me with the same paintbrush.
No, that is.
So, but I
To say the
actually,
least.
I should pat her on the back, because of course I bawled and cried and went to the bathroom, and would slap you on the hand if you didn't get back to class by a certain time. And I promised myself that I would prove her wrong.
Oh yes.
Now, I did not graduate from college, but I was a success in what I had gone in. And my brother put himself through college. My sister also put herself through college. And without any aid from the state or anybody, like nowadays,
So did you pass the test before your husband, the contractor's test, and did he pass it after you?
No, he didn't
he
only
didn't?
need one.
Oh, okay, so he just sent you. He just sent you to pass it, okay.
Yeah, he thought I was going to fail it, and so he wanted to have some.
I thought he sent you so that he could get, a little information on what was on the test so he could go pass it. But no, he just, okay, and you passed it, so you guys were good. Okay.
Yeah.
And you were saying you were one of the only females.
I went to a bank to pick up a draw. Usually, when you do contract for a house, you draw a certain amount of money from the bank account of the customer you're building the house for. You take draws, and I went to get the first draw, and of course I was just dressed normally. I think I had blue jeans on, and the loan officer said, "Well, you're here to pick up the check for the contractor." No, ma'am, I am the contractor.
Oh my God.
But you really couldn't blame her.
No, it was how it was at the time, but it's so crazy because I mean there's still some some
Oh, there is.
some people like that, less nowadays, but wow, I feel like, and I mean at the time you probably were not. I mean, were you shocked at the time? Because I was gonna
No.
say you probably were not shocked because that's how it was.
That's how it was. Yeah. But I was quick to set them straight.
Oh yes, but see that's
And
there
then
we go.
let's see what else. At one time we entered a partnership, and my husband and I were co-owners with another couple of a funeral home.
You really were. And so you know what? I see a lot of myself in you in your entrepreneurial ways because I did so many things already, but any opportunity I see, I just grab it and I just go for it.
I know one for you.
Tell me.
Ghetto well drillers.
Oh, there we go. That is true.
You look in the Albuquerque telephone book, there are no well drillers.
Oh, yeah, see?
And one of my neighbors waited a year to get a well driller.
Yeah, then $60,000 to drill a well. I mean, whew.
And no guarantee.
And oh yeah, huh? Don't they have machines now that they can scan the ground and probably, huh?
Oh, yeah, they can. In fact, I was looking it up. We have you ever heard of drowsing for water?
Oh yeah, yes.
We have a set, and we were at a party. No, they were actually getting married, and we said that we have a drowsing set, and we can drowse for your farm, and that was probably 2 years ago, and we met her at another neighborhood meeting last Sunday, and we asked her if she had drilled for water because she has animals, and she needs water for those animals. And she said, yeah, the well driller came out, and guess what? He found the same stream of water that you did. And my husband says, we don't have $60,000 for, and of course I do, we don't. But that is one in demand. I don't know what your husband does, but.
Well, he's a graphic designer and photographer. He's more of a, computer person. And he does a lot of building websites and logos and taking pictures and videos, and he has a drone, and he does a whole lot of things. And I'm more of a manual person. I love, you give me a task to do, a physical. I have some intelligence too with my brain, but I love to work with my hands.
Yeah.
So also right now I'm delivering mail. I've been cleaning. I've been selling. I've been a budget expert for 2 years at P&G because when I graduated in 2017, I worked right away. A week after I got my degree, I was employed and I was a budget expert for 2 years, and I really enjoyed that. But then I had to quit because I was moving here to the U.S. And so, at first, I never got the equivalent because I know that when you have a degree, so I have a bachelor in management assistant in Europe, in Belgium, but here I think I needed to get the equivalence of my degree, and I never did. So, and now it's been 7 years that I graduated. I'm not up to date with all the, everything. So my degree is not really worth anything anymore, I'm sorry, but and to be honest with you, I don't think I'm meant to work behind a desk all day.
But what brings to mind is I looked up the drone, and we're near the gold mines, and the drone can actually look for water, minerals. Cool. In fact, we had a guy work on our house building some decks, and he I think he said he made $30,000 last year. He and 2 other partners looking for gold with their little machines.
Oh yeah! Wow. Yeah. See, it's when you said that, it made me think of. I saw in Belgium they have there's a company with a drone that goes over farmer fields before they go with their big machines to I don't know how you say that in English, to collect the.
You mean they plow, or they want to know how much minerals to put in the limestone?
To collect the vegetables or the corn or whatever they planted. Before they go to do that, they have that company go with their drone to see if there's any. I'm missing vocabulary today. Baby animals, like baby from
rabbits and such.
Baby rabbits, but more like baby deers.
Deer.
Because otherwise they get caught in the machines, and so they send the drones, and with the drones they can see with the thermal imaging, and so they can say exactly where a baby is. They can go pick him up before they go. That's pretty amazing. So see, it's pretty amazing.
I didn't know that they would do that.
No. Yeah. And I mean, before drones, they used to just unfortunately kill animals, and
Right.
they felt bad about that. So they're finding solution, but that's pretty interesting. I wanted to go back to something you talked about earlier, was your grandmother, because you said at first that you kind of were not in agreement with her when you were younger at first,
Okay.
but then after it seems that it got better.
Yeah, because as you get older, you understand more.
Yeah.
But my mother was a product of a rape. My grandmother was, even if she knew the man, and I don't know, no one would say anything, it was all hush-hush. Even if she knew the man was 20 years old, and he abandoned, and she was close to, I think she was 16. She may have been 15 and a half and 16, but she got impregnated by him. And he abandoned her. And you got to remember, back in the 30s, an unwed mother was trash. Okay, so she was, I think, 12. There was 13 kids in her family, so she was the 12th. Okay, so she basically had a hard life. She was kicked to the side. Like I said, she had to walk 6 miles to get to school. And then with that many siblings, Yeah. So my mother was taking care of my grandmother, and then at 35, she's dead. So I didn't understand then, but I understand now. You got to think that my grandmother lost her means of support. She worked for a farmer, and the farmer never paid her anything. He never sent in Social Security. I had to fight to get that for her when she was at the age to get it. But she was there. She was lost. She didn't have any support, and there was nothing. There's no underpinning of the social system that back in then. And looking back, I can understand why we as kids were treated like we were, not so much by her, but by the community. You know, like the guidance counselor. Well, your mother was, you know. So my grandmother was mad at the world, and sometimes she would take it out on us, you know. And like I say, there was no internet. There was no, you couldn't even go to the library to get any information on anything.
No, And I mean, nowadays there is already no support about a rape because, I mean, I'm gonna try not to cry. It's gonna be difficult. I relate a lot with you and your grandmother too because there's for different things. So you know, I told you before the episode, I told you the story about how I met my husband, and so that was in December. And then you know, I was telling you the more messages I was sending him, the less he was sending me back.
Right.
But so at some point we stopped talking, and in that period of time, it was actually a really bad time for me. And I was alone, my family wasn't talking to me, and I thought I had friends, but they were not friends. They were just people that were taking advantage of me because I was paying to go to parties, I was paying when we went outside, or I was having parties at my little studio, and then one night, I don't remember why, I don't drink, but I drink a margarita or a cocktail, every now and then. For the life of me that night, I don't remember. It was a Thursday, because in Brussels, every Thursday during the summer, you have there's a place where they have parties on Thursday night. And that Thursday, I said to my best friend, I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna celebrate. But I don't remember what I was celebrating. It doesn't really matter, but yeah, I told him, you know what, you're the one bringing me home. I'm celebrating, I'm gonna drink, which meant that I was just gonna drink 2 or 3 mojitos. That's about it. Because usually I would drink 1, and this time I would drink 2 or 3. And so we started dancing, and there were other people. And I guess, don't remember that, but I guess I was dancing with one man that I didn't know. It was a friend of my so-called best friend, and came the end of the night, which wasn't late because that's what was nice with those parties. I think they started at 6 and were done at 10 or 11, and I was working the next day, so perfect. And comes the end of the night, I see my best friend, so the DJ is like, okay, it's over, go home, people. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna go get the car, you stay there. I was at the parking lot, I was on the corner. It was like, you stay there, I'll go get the car, I'll be right back. I stayed there. I was drunk, but I knew what I was doing. I was not unconscious. And so I wait, but I didn't see him pass. I didn't see him drive by. And all of a sudden I see this guy drive by me, and he stops and he opens his window, and he's like, oh, Marie, come, I'm gonna drive you home because my best friend, he's already gone, he didn't see you. I was like, what are you talking about? I've been here. What? I was like, no. And I call him, and he said, no, Marie, I'm almost home already. Go with him. It's fine. Okay, there is a girl in this back seat that was with us during the night too. So I'm like, all right. And so she lived not too far from me. And so he's like, oh, do you want to, so he talks to the girl, and he's like, okay, is it okay if I drop you off first? And she's like, oh yeah, no problem. Okay, she's in the front seat. At that point, she moved to the front seat. I was in the back seat. And I was like, okay, so we drive. I don't remember much of that. We just drive, and then we drop her off. And she's like, oh, do you want to go move to the front seat? I must have said yes, because all of a sudden I'm in the front seat. And so we drive home. Enfin, no, he drives me to my house, and then we're in front of my studio, and then he starts kissing me, but I'm, yeah, okay. And then all of a sudden, I blacked out, and I remember I woke up with him on top of me in my bed, and I started yelling, and I was just like, stop, like, no, stop. And he got back up, and he was like, oh, there's blood everywhere. What's going on? What's going on? I was panicking. I'm shaking back. I'm just like, I kicked him out. I was like, what? Get out. Like, what is going on? It's like I woke up, like the light came back on, and he left. And then I was trying to find my phone, and no phone. My phone stayed in his car, on the car seat. So I took my iPad, and I tried calling a friend that I stopped. I wasn't gonna go call my best friend anymore. That I was like, all right, this is not a good end. So I tried calling a friend of us, that I knew that knew him, and I told her, tell him to come back, give me my phone. And she was like, okay, let me call him. And so she calls him, and she calls me back, and she's like, Marie, he's drunk, he's home, he's gonna bring you your phone tomorrow. Mind you, at that time, it was like past midnight, and I'm in shock, and my bed is full of blood. I need to work the next day. I don't have my phone. I mean, it sounds insane when you tell me stories about times where there was no phone and no, but my phone at that time was my life. And so I'm trying to clean everything, and I'm just like, how the hell am I gonna wake up to go to work? But at the same time, I didn't sleep. So I text her, I say, you know what? It needs to turn off my phone, and I'll be back from work at 4:30. I'll be waiting. And so I go to work white as a cadaver, and I'm just working, doing my thing, going back home. And then plus at that time I was walking to work, 40 minutes to go, 40 minutes back, but I used to listen to my music, listen to podcasts and stuff. It was the longest day of my life because I had no music, no anything except just time to think about myself and my life. And that's when I had a long thought with myself and just thinking, oh my God, this is, this cannot keep going because I feel like this is as far as I can go. And I talked to my best friend, and he told me, Marie, you were dancing with him all night, you were friendly, I thought you wanted that. And you never thought, I told him, you never thought of asking me?
Right. That is not
That's not okay. And so from that day, because I had also that experience of that best friend saying, oh no, you wanted this, you cannot call this a rape. I never really talked about it ever again. My husband knows about it, a couple people, but that's about it. But see, I cannot even imagine how your grandmother must have felt, because we don't have support today. But I mean, at her time,
See, I don't know, like I said, I don't know whether they were friends, they were girlfriend, boyfriend, or whether it was a one night type thing.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Well, back then they just didn't talk. I never knew what happened to my mother and the operation because it was never talked about until I had to have a hysterectomy at the age of 35, same age that she died. And the anesthesiologist looked up the records, and they said she either died from being allergic to the medicine because she'd had vein stripping a year before, or the ties came loose because they didn't cauterize back then, and no one watched her in the recovery room, and so she just bled to death.
So from the hysterectomy, she had a hysterectomy too, or?
Yeah, and then I had to have one at 35. Anyway, but to show you, my grandmother we should have had an autopsy to see what happened to her. They did it on my father, and they said it was a heart attack. Did it on my sister too. But she was the legal guardian she was the guardian of my mother's body, and she would not let them. They're not gonna cut on her anymore, so we don't know what happened to her. We could have sued the hospital for negligence,
Yes.
but there was nobody with.
No, and I can't.
No.
As hard as it is, I can understand. You know what? It's not funny. I don't like this expression saying it's funny because it's not really. But I thought that everybody, when you die, you went going through an autopsy. I thought that was a automatic thing, and I learned recently that it's not the case.
No, it's not the case. Unless there's something suspicious.
Yes.
And of course, it was to the hospital's advantage not to
Of
have
course.
one. Not to have one.
But see, I thought that wouldn't make I thought that could have happened since it was following an operation. You know what I
No,
mean?
well.
But I guess.
Well,
like you said, it's in their advantage. It wasn't their advantage.
yeah. See, if it had been reversed and my father had been alive, he would have had them do an autopsy. But it was the opposite. It's and like I say, she was our next of kin. Because my mother, the way the law works is the one that dies last is the one that's control of whatever.
Is she still alive today?
Pardon?
Is she still alive today?
No, she lived to be about 83, and that was another sad thing. She lived by herself in the house that my father built, and we basically would take care of her, take her to the store, take her to the doctor. But she got so that she was not quite right, so we had to put her into a nursing home, and I hated it. Every time I would go visit her, I would cry, because sometimes she was in her right mind and sometimes she wasn't. So, it was just very difficult. And there wasn't any support. I would have hired people to take care of her, But she was very difficult in the fact that, example, if I took her clothes to wash them, to save her from having to wash clothes, and she knew that I did it, she would throw them in the floor, but she didn't want me washing her clothes. They get to a point, they say, is that the person that does the most for them is the one that they hate the most. Yeah, so, but it's just the way it is. My brother, now I could say, Linda, his wife, is washing the clothes, and I would give them to Linda. I'd wash them, but I'd give them to Linda, and she'd take them, and that would be okay.
Do you think maybe it's was she a pretty independent person in life before?
Because of the situation, the only work that she could get would be like sitting with older folk, taking care of them when they were ill, and no, she had a boyfriend. The boyfriend was the one that owned the farm, him and his brothers, and they would let her have a cow, but she would walk 30 minutes down, 30 minutes back to take care of all the animals on the farm because they were absentee farmers, but she'd get paid. And I remember your name, Marie. That's my grandmother on my father's side of the family. Her name was Marie Hartley.
Oh.
Yeah.
And see, I'm named after my great-grandmother. And her husband, his name was Jean. And so that's why I wanted to name my son Jean.
Yeah.
It's kind of full circle.
Right.
But here, the problem with that is Jean, you write it Jean, and you say a Jean here, and it's a feminine name. So my husband really loved the name Jean-Pierre. And growing up, my parents' neighbor, his name was Jean-Pierre, and he's still a formidable man. So we were just like, okay, let's do Jean-Pierre.
My daughter's an artist. She has this weird art. What can I say?
Oh. Well, art is subjective, right?
Yeah, she's the only child because he only wanted her. I could probably had a dozen. But when she was 15 years old, she wanted a car, and we wouldn't buy her one. So she started into jewelry, buy, resell. And then she got into wire wrapping rings. This vendor showed her how to do it. And I would go with her, even though it would mean that my real estate would suffer sometimes. But she was more important than money. And she went to VCU, which is Virginia Commonwealth University, that has a large art. I met her husband there. So she got an art degree. And they combined he was a graphic artist, and he was working in a frame shop. So they meshed their talents together, and they were making big money. I mean, $400,000 a year for two young kids.
Nice.
But then, things changed, and of course the economy changes, and they were traveling a lot, and they lost two babies. I got two extra babies in heaven waiting on me. She miscarried twice. And then we moved from the Roanoke area to the Richmond area, which is about 3 hours. I came home one day and I told Johnny, I said, I am up to here with people, banks, mortgages, interest rates. I've had it. I'm moving to Richmond. Because that's the time, the markets are always like that. Yeah. I sold real estate when it was 22% interest.
Oh, wow. I mean, now we're complaining because it's
right, and that's when creative financing came galloping in. But a year after we moved to Richmond, she presented us with Ada. She's 15, and it's Scarlett. Scarlett was a year later.
Congratulations.
So they will still be traveling. So, well, thank you. And they're sweet kids. They really are. For how the teenager.
Oh yes.
but they are when she started her business, Kim, I said, I will support you, but it's your business. You make the decisions. So and people would come to the booth and they'd say, well, what about this to me? Because I would be with her because she's a minor. She didn't know how to drive, and I wouldn't let her go anyway if she did. And I said, you have to ask her, it's her, she owns all this stuff? And I think at the time it was jewelry that she was doing. And I said, yeah, it's hers, which boosted her.
Oh, yes.
Her confidence. It really did. And I remember one time the show director put her in a mall somewhere where she's at the very end and there was no traffic. And she said, I don't like this. And one of the other people that were set up said, you can't complain to the director of the craft show. You can't complain or he won't invite you back. She said, I don't care.
Right.
I won't be coming back.
Oh, yeah, no, but if it's to be at the end of it.
So she went way up to him, and she got moved.
There we go. There we go. That's how it works.
Yeah. So she has taught her children pretty much the same, to take up for themselves, to not be afraid of life, you know, which I was, because I had no role models. I learned by the seat of my pants.
Oh, yes. I know that expression now. How we use it.
So, yeah, Scarlett, the youngest one, is heavy into volleyball.
Okay.
And this is her first, she's the captain of the team in Santa Fe, and she's only a freshman.
You know, what's impressive when I hear that from you is that growing up, nobody was behind you or pushing you, but despite that, you pushed your daughter, and she's pushing her daughters.
Right. We did. He was a cousin. Would take all the children, his 3 children. Well, he actually had 6, but the 3 youngest ones, he'd take us to church, and Oler was his name, Oler and Sally Bell, and they didn't have a lot of education, but they were wonderful people. They were really wonderful people, and the Lord looked after me. He just did, and over the years, it's like most things, it's up and down, but I always felt like He was there to guide, and it's not that it's been easy, you know. Been married, we were married in '66, so that would be 58 years. Right?
Wow.
Because we had planned on going to Hawaii and then hop over from Hawaii to Australia. It was kind of on my bucket list. But when I was feeling bad pretty much for the past 3 years, it was just like, I don't think that bucket list is going to work. Now it might.
How old were you when you had your hysterectomy?
35.
Oh yeah, 35. Wow, okay.
And it was fibroid tumors that they couldn't shrink. Of course, they didn't have nowadays they can shrink them and do all kinds of things. No, I got a 7-inch scar. And the medicine they gave me, I'll remember that. The medicine they gave me made me throw up. So it was a lot of pain. So anyway, just one of those things. And then I have it's called lipedema.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of lipedema? No. The government never recognized it, and have never done government health institute. It's a fat storage disease that it traps fluid and fat underneath your cells.
Okay.
And your arms are twice as big as they normally would be for your body size.
When were you diagnosed?
So I kept going to doctors, and they kept saying, well, I don't know what's wrong with you. I had one said, I asked her, she was of Indian descent, and most Indian doctors are smart people. They really are. And she said, I don't know what's wrong with you. It hurts. It's a painful hurt in your arms and legs. And I'm larger in the trunk now, but used to be I'd be normal size, and the arms would be twice. So the only way to get rid of it is liposuction. So after I decided that's what I had, I contacted a doctor in Germany, and he said, well, I need to make sure that is what you have. So you have to go to this doctor in Arizona. So in 2016, the end of 16, I went to a doctor in Arizona, Banner Health Clinic in Arizona. And sure enough, what I had diagnosed myself to having, I did. So then they set up the appointment. Insurance would not pay for it in this country because it was not a recognized disease. So I went to Germany and stayed over there 6 weeks and had both arms and legs done. Of course, with liposuction, you know, they punch holes in you and suck stuff out of you. Well, some of it came back.
I was gonna say, is it something that you have to do every so often?
Well, you're supposed to, but
Well, yeah.
I just live with it.
When did you have the?
Let's see, in February of 2017, I went on a trip with my husband. It's a mission trip to Zimbabwe. Oh, that was enlightening. Oh, goodness. Anyway, it was a couple months later, because if it had been different, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But yeah, it was in, so I think it was April of 2017.
You know, before, I would like to take you on your faith journey, but before we do that, I wanted to ask you a question about, you told us you've been married 58 years with your husband, and I wanted to ask
To the same husband.
To the same husband, Johnny. I wanted to ask you, you know, a lot of people would be like, oh my God, 58 years, what's the secret? But so do you have, you know, a little secret you want to share?
Forgive and forget as best you can. There will be bumps along that road, and nothing is ever big enough to destroy your marriage, usually. It's not. I mean, now I can understand if someone is abusive
Yes.
and things like, but most of the times whatever we would fight over would be money. It usually was never enough to go around. The only time I told him just here recently, the only time that I ever felt like I would not have to worry about money was when we have our vacation rental on Virginia Beach area, and it was bringing in some good income. But my family was 2,000 miles away, and what's money if your family is 2,000 miles away? So that's why we sold it and came out here. But yeah, as I told him, he had parents. He never, when he was growing up or even a young adult, ever had to worry. If something, he would call mom. If he needed something, he'd call mom. I had no mom. We had Social Security and a little bit of one little check from veterans because my father was a veteran. That's all the money we had. And my grandmother didn't have money. So it was always an uphill battle and nothing to fall back on.
You're a strong woman.
I guess I had to be. Well, yeah, my brother was 2 years younger than I, and and then my sister, even though she was a year older, she was sick all the time. So it fell to me to take care of whatever we needed to take care of. And sometimes I didn't know what I was doing. A lot of times I didn't know what I was doing.
And I think that's what you said earlier too about, you know, when you're young, you don't know, and you grow up talking about your grandmother, and you learn, and you actually take a step back and have perspective. I feel like that's also how I've been in my journey. For me, I mean, we've been married now 5 years, so it's nothing compared to 58, but I feel like what's working for us is communication, and never go to bed mad, or with something on your heart. If there's something that's bothering you.
I don't know about your religious affiliations, but a family that prays together stays together is another saying.
Well, see, so before we go to towards your faith journey, I want to say that for me, I grew up as I want to say Catholic, and maybe I'm mistaken, but for me, growing up in Europe, we don't make a distinction between Christian and Catholic, and at least not that I know of. And I mean, I was baptized. We never went to church growing up. But when I was, I want to say 16, 17, my dad, very interesting story too. My dad went on, I think, a walk one day, and he came back from work, and he saw a homeless person sleeping on a bench close to our home. But in our area, you don't really see a lot of homeless people. So it was something you don't really see. So he got interested in that, and he came home and he prepared, I think, a blanket. He put some hot coffee in a mug, and a couple snacks and a sandwich, I think, and he went to talk to that man. It so happened that that man was actually from France, and he had lost his paper and somehow found himself in Brussels. and was trying to go back to his family. But the problem is without paper, you cannot go on a train or on a bus or, you know, back to his, and to get his papers back, because France, weirdly enough, is really ancient in that matter. They still have, I think they're moving to plastic cards now, but they're still in like paper cards for their ID, and to renew your card you have to go back to where you were born, I believe. So he had to go back all the way to the village where he was born, which was really far, and his mom was trying to send him money, but he didn't have paper, so he couldn't get it, you know, very tricky situation. So my dad put a message on Facebook, and we collected funds for him to be able to put him on a bus under my father's name, and we sent him to his home village. And so my dad was, you know, it sparked something in him, and he created an association to help homeless people.
Oh, that's great.
And to raise funds, we would go to church. And while the church in our area would help raise funds for my dad's association. So we went back to church on Sundays, and I mean, I love to sing. I loved to sing. And so I feel like church is the only place where you can sing really loudly and nobody will judge you.
Well, until we go to the East Mountain Cowboy Church, and before they rent space because they're building a new church. So they rent the middle school up here, and their speaker system was not the best. But they have improved it since while I was gone about 6 months up at Farmington with the heart and everything. Anyway, that's what I told Johnny. I said, I don't know what he said because I can't understand it, you know. But I do enjoy the music. Yeah, we've had some interesting churches. Let's put it that way. Okay. And I was going to say I was going to bring to mind. When I had my liposuction done in Germany, I heard English spoken. Ran into a lady that had just had some done, and she was from Canada. And we talked to each other over the Facebook, but she was in her 30s. And I have found out that recently that when you're in your 30s and they do the operation, you have better
chance of
working out. And she was a character. Well, her mother was with her because her husband, she had 3 children, and so her husband was taking care of the kids. But we promised to meet each other, but so far that's not happened. But her father, her biological father, because I think they were divorced from her mother, they went up to the Netherlands because that's where her father's side of the family was from. But we never went that far. You know, of course they were younger and they were wealthier. It takes money to travel.
Yes.
But what else was I going to say? I have been to France. When we were building houses, they would have a program. We won a trip to Bern, Switzerland. And it was like a week and a half, and we had a free weekend, so we took the red eye to France. Took our daughter with us because she was graduating from high school, I think, or college. Anyway, so she could go to see some of the art galleries and whatever. But it was an interesting trip. Of course, with American, you have your card.
Yes.
And of course, we didn't speak anything except American.
Well, what's good at least is, in France, less I feel like, but if you go anywhere in Europe, people would do the effort to speak to you in English, most likely, or most of the time.
Right. I guess it's kind of a universal type language, But in fact, I had the German doctor, he said, why don't you learn other languages? We don't need to. It's a big country, but our next door neighbor speaks English. Of course, if you go farther south, you can speak Spanish, but if you don't have a way of using your language, but you speak great English.
Thank you. I try to get rid of the accent. I don't think I ever will, unfortunately. But I used to, so my mother language is French, and then I used to be bilingual Dutch and then English and a little German, but I haven't used my Dutch in so long that I understand it, but I cannot speak it anymore. So yeah, you need to practice a language. But so, you know, we would go to church every Sunday at that point, but I don't consider myself a Catholic or a Christian or a believer. For me, my beliefs are that I believe in the universe. I believe that, see, for me, I believe you call the universe, okay, you call it God, I call it the universe. And for me, whenever you put out positive, you get positive back. And I believe in the law of attraction and all that. However, I'm always so interested in hearing other people's beliefs and journeys. I have no judgment towards that, and I don't believe that I know better. You know, to me, as long as everybody lets me believe what I believe, you know, there's no issue, and everybody has the freedom to believe in whatever they want to. And so in this podcast too, that's why I want to listen to your journey and share it and listen, and whoever wants to come and talk about their own faith journey, whatever that may be, they're welcome here too.
You know, as of course, the nearest church that I was taken to by my cousin
Yes.
was a Methodist. And that was because that was just the one that my parents had gone to. And then when they died, then he's followed through. My grandmother actually, in that same little community, had gone to the Baptist church, which is a little bit farther distance. But for whatever reason, after the death of her daughter, she would not go to church. When I married Johnny, he was Southern Baptist, and he was on the other side of the river, so to speak, where our little area was. And they have a saying, once the Baptist, always a Baptist. But I didn't want us to have a split family where one person is one denomination, even though both are Christian, different beliefs.
I was going to say, I don't understand the many differences.
The major difference with Methodists is that to accept Christ and get baptized, you get sprinkled. Baptist, you have to emerge, going into water and coming back up.
Is that the only or the main difference?
Well, it's in the Bible. Jesus was baptized in a lake by John the Baptist.
Yes.
And that's the Baptists carry through with that doctrine that you have to go in the water and come back out in a new life in Christ. And so I'm definitely going to. No, this is not true. Just because you get baptized doesn't mean you're going to heaven. But I got baptized twice. I got sprinkled first, and then I got immersed the other time.
Well, I got sprinkled because the thing is, of course, when you're a baby, you know, you're over the vask, and it's just, you know, you get some water on your head. That's how I got baptized. But as far as my faith, I believe in Christ. I believe that He died for our sins, and that He rose on the third day, and He's coming back for us. Okay.
And is like my friend in Farmington that's helping me make the dolls. I don't know whether I'll see her again, but I will see her here or there or in the air. Because those that don't die, that are here at the rapture, we're in the air. And it's a belief that's in my heart. I had I guess she's probably 6 years old or something like that. I used to teach or participate in puppet theater, where you would do a puppet skit at church. And this little girl came in, and we'd sit down and we'd have our songs first. And she said, well, how do you know? How do you know that Jesus lives? And I said, because He's in my heart. That's where He lives. He lives in my heart.
See, it's interesting because I remember when I went to school, which was a Catholic school, and see, for me, that's why I say it's so weird to me coming to America and seeing all the different churches, like the Baptist, like you said, and then the Christian and the Catholic. For us, I mean, for me growing up, I'm going to talk in my name, but it was only, you know, the Catholic / Christian, because it's like the same basket. And then you had the Muslim, Jewish, and that was about it. And I think maybe the Orthodox, But really, that that's the different religion that I encountered growing up, and so coming here and seeing all the many different ones just in the Catholic Christian branch was really interesting to me. But what I meant to say is that growing up in a Catholic school, at some point we learned about, I don't know how you say it in English, but in French we say le pari de Pascal. So it's Pascal's bet. I don't know if that's the right translation, but it's this person, Pascal, that was saying that in your lifetime you can choose to believe or not to believe. And if you don't believe, you'll live your life, but if in the end it's real, well, then you lost your life being a non-believer. But if you believe and you live with your faith, and you put your heart to God, or to me, whoever you believe, or whatever you believe in, and at the end it's real, then you won everything. But if at the end it's not real, you didn't lose your life, because you still lived with your heart full of love and hope and good, So I don't know if that was really clear, but all that being said, when I heard that, I was just thinking, might as well believe. You know what I mean? In whatever you choose to believe.
I don't think it works quite that way. I've heard that too. Might as well believe. It was a guy, a salesperson that, I don't know, he said, might as well.
Well,
because if I don't, then, the answer to that, but I have a chance if I believe. I don't think it works quite that way, but yeah.
I think it's a tricky question, because of course the detractors, you say detractors, or people that don't believe would always say, me included probably, how can there be a God, and how can there be so much bad in this world? I think that's
it's because man brought sin into this world, and man, we have a Father, a God, well, it's actually a Trinity, and things happen. We're too human. God's brain, God's being, God's entity has to be so big. How could this world come into being? How can the human body be what it is? And that's what he said, he made us in his image. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are complexities of the human body that they still haven't figured out. Mm-hmm. But our knowledge is like a grain of sand, and God's is the ocean, the seas, they're everywhere. I mean, it amazes me, like a little tiny bug is so intricate. And I've had my husband say, well, why did God make these gnats or these mosquitoes? I said, well, the birds had to have something to eat, We are too finite to appreciate anything in the infinite that God is. And I do believe that, and of course, I guess the Jewish people were his chosen people. People, why did they choose? Well, it's God. You can't question what God does, because you don't have his knowledge, his being. But the Christian faith is tied immensely to the Jewish faith, because we are the adopted ones. The Jewish were the chosen ones. We are the adopted ones, the ones that are adopted into. And I can't wait to get to heaven. In fact, when I was sick, I said, well, half my family is up there. I'd hate to miss the ones down here and see my grandkids grow up, but I got 2 grandkids up there. I believe the miscarried ones are the ones that are aborted, killed. They're there. And I'm thinking, well, maybe those who love children, which I do, will be the people that take care of those kids in heaven. I don't know. And then I've read, all kinds of things like, maybe you'll come back. And I don't believe in reincarnation, but hey, maybe it is. Mm-hmm. You'll come back. And the knowledge that you have in the first life or whatever can be used in your second life. But yeah, it's a peace that passes all understanding. When you have the peace, it didn't matter to me if I had a heart attack. Mm-hmm. I knew where I was going. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just there.
But see, it's interesting to me because in my case, I guess I'm in this position right now where I'm thinking I can't believe in a God. That's why I believe in in energies, because losing my mom when I moved here and I wasn't talking to her and she passed away at 49. It's so unfair. It's just so unfair because I wasn't given the chance to grow up from my stubborn teenage years and and have my kid, and it's unfair for my mom not to be able to know my child, and it's unfair for her. She had a rough life too, and she wasn't always understood, I believe, and she, don't get me wrong, she did a whole load of bad things and wrong things, but I don't believe she deserved to die. But she was sick, and there is so much, and so for that I'm just like, oh, this is, I can't. But and so to me, but that's also because I'm early in my grief. But you lost your mom, you lost your sister, you lost your brother.
No, my father.
Oh, your father. Sorry.
Yeah, my
early.
brother is. Thank the Lord, he'd had triple bypass and he's still alive.
Oh, thank God. And I still use expressions too with God and Jesus all the time. But you have, your faith is strong, and I want to learn. I want to hear about all your journey, because you were talking to me about also missions that you did, and so that's so interesting to me that despite losing so many people close from you, and from your close family, your faith is so strong.
Yeah. Well, and I can't really explain it. Like I say, it's just a peace that you have. And I worry about people who have no peace. Okay. They don't have it. They don't, and my husband's 80, so they checked his heart and said he would die of something else beside his heart valve or something that they said was wrong with him. But and of course I haven't told you, well, before my sister died, my best friend died. She had cancer, bone cancer. She was 15 years old. She was my best friend in high school, and she died. And I got to thinking at one point in my life, what next? Who next? Mm-hmm. Because you have all those, and it's just there. The peace is just there, and no matter what happens, and your answer to why does different things happen? Why do the good die young? There may be a reason. The reason may be something that you have no idea, but as the dominoes fall in place, then there may be a reason.
Yeah, I
understand.
I know, it's so hard for me.
Because like I said, I didn't know my mother that much, but my sister, we were.
Oh yeah.
Because we shared the same horror, her more than me, and she lost her baby. She was juvenile. She was a diabetic, and she graduated from Radford, which is a teaching college, and she was teaching in Northern Virginia. She married. They were married 7 years before she died, but in the first year or so of their marriage, she had a little baby boy, and he was premature, and they weren't in a hospital that could do anything. So that was horrible to bury her little baby, and she couldn't have. They kept telling her she couldn't have any because it would be too hard on her. It would kill her to have another, pregnancy. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that happen, and may still happen.
When did that peace come to you? Did you always have that peace that you talk about?
Off and on. But as you got older, and especially when I went on these couple mission trips, if someone tells you anywhere in the world they have it, well, especially this country, belly aching about this and that, and I don't have that, color of my skin is wrong, I've been discriminated against, blah, blah, blah. They have no concept of it, Zimbabwe, that these people live in huts, have no food. They even, a gift, an expensive gift for a poor person to give is a chicken. I mean, that's how poor they are. And it's just, they have they have no opportunities. Now, Cambodia is a little different. I remember but they have no clean water. And right now, Zimbabwe is in a drought. Mm-hmm. And there's a young missionary, well, they're actually pastor of the Baptist church in Bulawayo, which is the second largest city. And they will actually plant corn if they can get the seed along the roadways because they don't own the land. And corn they will mature, not like what we like corn, and they will roast it. And when I was there, part of the mission, we had was at a home where they will take children in that have been abandoned, and they will have a house mother, and they may have 10 or 15 kids that they take care of. They were serving them corn, 3 different types of corn. This is what they were eating. And the sanitation is non-existent. And then they had another one that is out of Australia, where they take raped girls off the street. Rumor has it that if you have sex with a virgin, whether it's a member of your family or not, you get cured of AIDS. And all they're doing is they keep producing. So this organization takes the girls and takes care of them and their babies. That they do the best they can. But their goal is to teach them not to depend on a man. They teach them gardening, they teach them sewing, they teach them cosmetics, baking, whatever. And they have a greenhouse too. And very dedicated people that will pretty well, I mean, they love what they're doing, obviously, but they're making a dent. You know, it's like someone was saying that you can't make a difference, and it's a story like there was like starfish or anything as far as washed upon the sea, and they of course will die because they'll not get back to the water. And the little boy was throwing them and back, and they were talking about it. And the little boy says, well, it will make a difference to that one. You know, you can't throw them all back. And I guess that's the way it is when we share our faith to someone who may be a non-believer, is that I don't know where this conversation will go. Only the Lord above will know. But I've shared it with you, which is all I've asked to do. Mm-hmm. You can accept or you can reject. That's all I ask. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but I thank you for the opportunity to let me share it.
Oh, I see, and that's the thing. I'm not even close to anything. I think only there's a French expression that says I can think of it right now. Oh, il y a que les cons qui changent pas la vie. So only dumb people don't change their mind. And I'm not, saying that I will or that I won't, but I certainly know that I don't hold the absolute truth. It's, to me, I've grown so much, especially these past few years, and I just love to listen and to, just make my own opinion, compare, and learn, and and fill my heart with love and positivity. To me, what you're sharing doesn't come from hate or greed or so.
Yeah, to most Christians, the sharing of the gospel is a gift, an opportunity that we're giving. And like I say, you can accept it or reject it.
But so I'm curious, how would you define what's a mission? How would you define what a mission is? Because you said you went on several missions.
Well, in the Cambodian mission was that I was helping with the Awana, which is like a Sunday school, only it's during the school year. A Bible school, only it's during the school year. And I was helping with that, and my husband he had volunteered to be a coordinator for the people that come, the missionaries that come. At the time, we were going to a church that had 4,000 people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they would have like 12, 14 missionaries for missionary week, like 3 or 4 days. So our Sunday school class was assigned to Sue Singleton, that was coming from Cambodia. So we tried to find out information. You're supposed to be like the host family, take care of them if they need a vehicle, a place to sleep, just take care of them, you know. So we asked the coordinator at church, and they said, well, no, she seems like she has family, which they do sometimes, in the next city, which is like 15, 20 minutes away.
Okay.
So we asked not once, not twice, but 3 times we asked if we needed to do anything for Sue's arrival. No, nothing. Unknown, Sue needed. So at meet and greet, we say, well, I understand you have family. Richmond. Forest Hill Avenue, which is a long, long street through that city. And she said, Forest Hill Avenue? I live on Forest Hill Avenue, but it's in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, 2 hours away.
Okay, yeah.
So God, and she said, I'm going to have to look at that bio sheet because she didn't put the city. She put Forest Hill Avenue. So we weren't prepared. We had worker, but we had built a Cape Cod and the upstairs was not finished. So we had 2 workers that were actually staying on our farm in a little cabin, working there during the week. And it was Lee. Lee was a big guy, and he liked to watch our big screen TV. So I called him up and I said, Lee, what you doing? He said, he was asleep. I'm watching TV. I said, look, we got a missionary coming, and Johnny's room we're going to put her in Johnny's room because you can clean that up better than you clean my room up. So that's what he did. He was not saved. He did not go to church. Long story short story, Sue came, stayed 3 days. Lee and his stepdad would go back, but Lee stayed with us, went to our church. Long story, short story, he became saved. His stepdad, that was this close to death from cancer, lung cancer, also accepted Christ. We were invited to Cambodia because Sue saw that I had a greenhouse. She wanted me to teach the kids gardening. Okay. We didn't have the money. The group was a fixed set of people, but 2 fell out. No, a piece of land that we'd had on the market for years sold, so we had the money. The group was set to go, but no space for us. 2 people fell out. So we got their place. A week before we were to go, I went by the local Home Depot and I said, I need to buy some seeds. Can't do gardening without seeds. And this was the end of June. End of June. Manager said, I'm sorry, all our seed got wet, but I will give them to you. He said, I don't know how bad they were. Well, they weren't bad at all. And he said, I said, whether I'll pay for them. Oh no, my brother, now this is what, amazing. My brother studied law in Cambodia. You know, what's the likelihood?
Oh, yeah.
It was God orchestrating everything. So instead of a few seeds, he gave me a whole bushel basket. There were thousands of seeds. So many seeds, I couldn't take them all. So my husband and I shared a suitcase, and we took the seeds to the kids in the orphanage, 50-some kids. Taught 101 gardening. And but and from then on, every time Sue would be, because they have to come back and forth on mission trips. The missionaries have to come back to the U.S. to recharge or whatever they do. Anyway, every year that he would have leftover seeds, he'd call and she'd get them. And then I took some to Zimbabwe because they kept coming. Do you know that last year's seeds will also grow?
That is it.
They may not be 100%, but hey,
Yeah.
80%, and they usually discount them, and they throw those seeds away. Can you imagine the number of people this world that you could feed
Oh, yeah.
with seeds? So that's just another one of God's little tweak. It's got to be. All those things are not coincidences.
No. No. I think that, yeah, no, everything came into place.
Yeah, and then when Customs stopped the transfer from U.S. to Zimbabwe, they stole the seeds.
Oh, no.
Why did the seeds get stolen? We don't know. So one of my other friends knew about it because she had gathered it up this is the Tambi in Zimbabwe, and she said, and she lives in, and of course you don't know these places, but she lives and she's part of the doll group. Oh, she's another story too, another miracle. She really is. Anyway, she was walking through her local Home Depot, not the same one, a different area, and she saw that they still had the seeds up and last fall. And so she took a page out of my book and she went for the manager. Manager said, well, I really don't like to destroy them or send them back if I know somebody's going to use them. So she replaced those seeds that someone else took. Now, why did they take them? Well, maybe that was the reason. So she got involved sending the seeds to Zimbabwe for Tammy and her crew.
How long ago was it that you went to Zimbabwe?
Oh, 2013 was Cambodia, and February of 2017. Yeah, 13 and 17.
And so you have to pay. So the church doesn't pay for your trip. You have to pay for your plane tickets, I'm assuming.
Well, on the Zimbabwe trip, it's a big church, so they have mission funds that you pay. You actually pay for your trip, but they subsidize part of it. I think they gave us trip was probably 2,000, and they gave us 500 of it. Okay. But it's funds that's been donated to that particular part of the church. Yeah, I think they did that. Well, the first time was 300. This last time was 500. And we weren't even the Zimbabwe trip. We had no idea, but 2 people had dropped out, and they knew that we had our shots and could go last minute type. It was kind of a fact finding, but and that's strange too. The pastor of the Baptist church in Zimbabwe met our pastor at the time. He's not our pastor now. Our pastor in the airport where they were traveling. They just
and that's how they connected to make the mission happen? Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And so where did you stay over there?
In Bulawayo, they have like I would liken it to a Motel 6, Motel 8.
Okay.
Bulawayo, I don't know whether you know much about apartheid. See, most of Africa was settled in the colonial years.
For Belgium, we colonized Congo. It was Congo.
And the hotel that the abused children are in, that's called the Sandra Jones Center. It's hard. It was an old motel, but they had turned the rooms upstairs into dormitories, and it had rock. It was like a circular rock. I mean, we didn't stay there, but we stayed at the one that was in the town that was kind of close.
Okay.
It was clean, but it was like, if you've been in Motel 6 or Motel 8,
yes.
Yeah, that's the way it was. And in Cambodia, it was more like 3-story instead of 2-story, generally about the same thing. The thing there that I remembered is that the toilet paper was pink. I don't know.
Okay.
And paper is important. they would have it on the table as napkins. You know, I like going to different cultures and different things and understanding that we have it so great. I mean, gee.
I think it's important because that definitely helps balance things and realize how good we have it.
Yeah. And like I say, people complain about what they don't have. No. And coming across the border in this country, giving them pretty much whatever they want. You know, I don't think we should have open borders. Now, I feel for those families, but we still can't damage the families that are here just because they're coming across with no restrictions. I mean, most people who claim this country as, of course, I guess because you married an American, it's pretty well automatically, of course, your child.
Well, I'm an immigrant still, so right now I'm on a 10-year residence card, but I've been here more than 3 years, so I'm married to an American, so I can pass the citizenship test. So, but it's an extra $800, and I have 10 years to pass the test, so I'm putting money aside to, you know, and I'm gonna work my way up there. But my son is American through his dad, and he's Belgian through me, so he has double nationalities.
You know, I feel for those families that, well, not all of South America, but South America is a poor continent. It's just poor. And if I had crime and people killing me, my neighbors next door, yeah, I probably would risk my life to do that too. I probably would, regardless of what the government says, you know. But, you know, I guess it's one of those things with the starfish. You can't help them all, but some you can.
But see, I don't know. I'm curious to have maybe your opinion on this, but I don't fully agree with you. To me, in a perfect world, and I know it's naive to say that probably, but I would, because you don't choose where you are born. When you're born, you know, you don't choose your family, you don't choose when where you're born. And I feel like that's utopia. I know it's never gonna happen, but I feel like if there was no border anywhere and you could choose where you would like to live, I believe that every government on the planet would fight to have the best government, the best healthcare, the best everything, because they would want people to come and live in their countries. You know what I mean? It's like if you're free to go anywhere, then you're truly free to choose where it's better for, you know, better taxes, better salaries, better healthcare, better school system. But it's not the case today, and I don't. It's a difficult subject, but to me, also I'm a white young girl, and my maiden name is a Dutch last name, which when growing up in Belgium, I've always been a hard worker. I started working when I was 14, and believe me, I've worked hard so far my entire life. However, I know that I had advantages because I was a blonde, white girl growing up in Brussels with a Dutch last name. And I feel like I'm not even allowed to say this, but it's outrageous, and I feel that it's so unfair that so many people, and especially in Africa or in South America, because of their skin color or because of where they're born, they don't have the same rights as me.
That's right.
You know, why not? I mean, they're human, same as me, same as you. But like you said, they only have the choice between 3 types of corn, or, you know, or they live in an area where violence is and sometimes they don't have a choice than to try to risk their lives to come. And now, to this day, there's so many boats of immigrants trying to reach Europe too, and they die at sea on a inflatable mattress that insane, cruel people are selling them for thousands of euros or dollars for them to cross a sea that they know they're not going to survive, you know, that trip. And it just makes my blood boil. But so I respect your opinion, and I understand what you mean, because today in Europe too, there's a lot of people that say, wait a minute, why don't we take care of our people first before we take care of immigrants? And I believe that you can hear all sides, and I don't think nobody's wrong, but I think we ought to put ourselves in other people's shoes.
Yeah. I mean, I do too. Like to say, it's just not enough to go around.
No, that is true. That is true, and that's why
Now,
I believe
there would be if the rich,
Yeah.
the super, super rich, they'll never spend all that money.
No.
And they can't take it with them.
In the current system, I agree with you. It wouldn't work. It's not working. It wouldn't work. But see, at the same time, it's really rough, because we, right now we talk a lot about Mexican people, but you know what? I don't know about you, but for me, some of the most hard workers that I've met are Mexicans. And they're being spitted on and diminished, and it makes me sad, it makes me mad, and it's a difficult subject, and I don't pretend to have any answer.
Oh, you don't have the answer to this one?
No.
Really?
I truly wish I did. But man, I think what's heartbreaking is that it's on purpose or not, politics are dividing us and putting us against each other and creating fear.
But it's always, you haven't lived that long. You certainly haven't lived in this country, but it's always been that way.
It's always been, and I hope it's not going to always be, but I know so far it has.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I've been through all those elections and pros and cons, and, the abortion issue, and, and we certainly haven't touched on that, but to me, a baby is a baby. God made, the Bible says, I knew you before you were born. I knew you in the womb. And I understand that there could be issues of rape, incest. The baby could be so deformed that it'll die with. But life is life, and if you get on, I don't know whether you're on Nextdoor or not. I guess you are on Nextdoor.
Yeah, that's how we.
People are more concerned about lives of dogs and cats and puppies and animals, but not babies.
I agree with you. However, like exactly what you just said, all the the babies that are conceived from rape or incest or that have a malformation, I don't think I personally have a right to say to the mom that she has to keep that baby. That's my opinion. However, see, the thing that outraged me.
You just had a baby.
Yes, but see, you know what? It's interesting, because I was talking to a colleague of mine the other day about that. Because I don't know if you know, but now when you're around, I think 20 weeks, you can have a blood test done, and they can detect if your baby has trisomy or has any type of handicap, and that's at that point that you can decide to either carry on with your pregnancy or not. And I had told my husband, and we talked about this, and we were not going to agree on that, but I had told him that for me personally, at that time, I thought if he had any type of handicap, I could not have gone through with the pregnancy, because in my heart, I knew that I was not going to be strong enough, and it's not a life for him, it's not a life for me. Thank God, he's healthy, nothing was wrong, and that's when we learned that we had a little boy, and it's been a wonderful pregnancy, and he's an amazing baby. But see, when I had him, then I was lucky enough to have that experience of being submerged with love when I saw him, and I told my husband, even if he had anything, I would have had him. But so I changed my mind. However, Something that really makes me mad is I agree with you on that. What I don't like is I don't like the term pro-life because as a European, I'm against firearms. And to me, we heard, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that it was the 45th mass shooting that happened at that school and killed two children and two teachers. How can we say we are pro-life and we're forcing women to have children, but we're not keeping them safe when they go to school? Why does it stop there? Why does the pro-life stop where we say that woman needs to keep the child? Why doesn't it go further into the life of that child? See, that's where I get mad. But so I don't know if you want to talk about that. I don't know if you want to, it's because
What should I say about that?
the problem is bigger than you and me. But
Of course, I've seen on the internet too that they say, stop the guns. That's what's killing our kids in their school.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, what country is it? England? That they took the guns away?
no country in Europe has guns.
But they knife people to death. Man is so evil that they could take knives away, they could take guns away, but man will still find a way to kill other people, ropes, whatever. But yeah, I get your perspective. I do. I really do.
I'm scared. I'm just, because of course I have a son, so I'm just thinking, okay, all I hear around here where we live is that at least once a month in the schools around here, you have an alarm going off because there is either a bomb threat or a school shooting threat, or I don't know. So I'm just like, I think I'm going to homeschool my child. Because
Of course, my child is 50 years old, and I would have homeschooled her, but back then there wasn't any programs.
Oh,
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, because I was with her, for her first 5. She knew how to read before she got to kindergarten, and one of the teachers didn't like it, so they make her sit in a room by herself, and she read her own books. Well, she had a son the same age. You certainly don't want somebody else's.
Oh my God! Of course. Okay, yeah.
So we're talking about a tiny unfair something versus a big unfair something, like the people who want to live in this country.
See, and that's the hard part. I told my husband, I'm thinking that if Trump gets elected, I need to get my citizenship as soon as possible because
May not be a bad idea.
Because I don't know what's going to happen with immigrants. Because I'm an immigrant. I'm not a Mexican, but I'm an
immigrant. Of course, I don't know where these people are coming. I mean, I studied U.S. history, and it seems that the presidents are taking a whole lot of more liberty than the founders of this country gave them. They were supposed to be, the executive part. They're not the ones that make the laws. So how can the president say, I'm going to do so and so and so? What gives you that right? It's the Congress that does it. So and the judicial, of course, is supposed to look out for the law, but that doesn't happen either. It's just evil people in all those places.
Oh, before we move to the cards, I have a question. Because actually, before I forget, earlier, I'm interested about what you said. You talked about that, I don't remember his name, the person that lived on your property, the worker that gave his room to Sue before she came for when she came for 3 days. You said he wasn't saved and then he was saved. What did you mean by that?
He did not know Christ.
Okay.
He was 30-some years old, had 3 children. He and his wife she was Catholic, so she was a Christian. And they were having issues. That's one reason that he is traveling 3 hours away to spend it away from his wife, to give them some space, okay? They were getting ready to split. So the Lord above saw fit to use Sue and use our church, I think, because he would go to some of the the meetings to show him that there was a better way. He reconnected with his wife. She rededicated her life. His 3 children. He started being real active in the church, and his young children became Christians.
Okay.
His father-in-law, that was, like I said, he had lung cancer. He accepted Christ before he died. Now, whether any of that was what led him to Christ, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's between him and God,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And he had had a difficult life, and he had a major bath problem that made him disabled. So he'd had some issues. In fact, I just got an email from him. I mean, he still lives on Eastern. Well, there's still some strife in the family, so to speak. His wife is on Eastern Shore, which you probably don't understand, and he's in Portsmouth, which is across the bay. But he doesn't make enough in disability to live with her. So she's with a friend, one of her female friends that she used to work for. So she's working there, and I don't know where, I hadn't checked with him to see where the kids are. They've grown. We knew them when they were like little, you know, because it's been a while. Yeah, I don't know. And it's not to say that everyone within the Christian religion, or even within the circle that I knew or know of or still know, they're not Boy Scouts, I guess you'd say. They have problems. I mean, we have problems. I have a problem with being lazy and not wanting to do good things. But somehow or another, the Lord and I, we have our daily talks, and I think He just says, remember, and I remember Sue. Her husband was killed by a drunk driver when she was 55 years old. They had one child, and the child was, I think, out of high school, out of college. So she studied to become a missionary and spent 22 years of her life in Cambodia taking care of, she said, they were my grandkids. Mm-hmm. And she was telling us about one that they weren't set up to take infants. And this grandmother brings her grandson to her and says, you have to take him. And Sue says, well, you know, we're not prepared. She said, if you don't, I do not have the money to feed him. I cannot buy any milk for him. I will throw him in the lake because I will not let him starve to death. So, of course, Sue took, you know, and it was another one, too. The father abandoned that baby, and the mother died in childbirth. And then another thing, that the father brought an infant on a bicycle from a faraway village, and same thing, I can't keep him. I can't take care of him. Would you take him? So what they do is the Cambodian people actually legally give up rights to their children so that they can be taken care of, can be fed and clothed, and they send them to school, to college. And it's a wonderful mission there, and it was interesting too. But and Sue said that she had studied Spanish. She was sure that she was going to be sent to one of the South American countries. I mean, she's through the mission board, and she said, "But the Lord sent me to Cambodia, and I didn't know a word." She learned to speak and write Cambodian.
Wow.
And that is, if you've ever seen this, looks like Chinese.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, wow. That is
You know,
definitely
it's not like our little letters that, of course, I don't know what Belgium looks like, but.
It's the same alphabet.
Oh, okay.
It's French. It's the same alphabet as
Yeah.
English.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I would never, be able to do that, but it's, I don't know, I've had an interesting life. I have been blessed, and I still am getting blessed. And if I should go walk out this door and get killed by somebody, I'm okay.
Okay, but please, let's don't do that. I touched some wood. Let's not do that. But I understand what you mean. It's funny when you say about, for her that she you know, started doing missions, and you know, after losing her husband, I had reversed for me kind of. I had told my husband that I wasn't really happy in the life I had in Belgium. I didn't like the routine of going to work, and then the thing is, my colleagues were all 20 years older than me, and they sounded so unhappy in their lives, in the sense that it was always looking forward to the weekend and to the next vacation, and I was just I couldn't see myself there in 20 years from them, and I had told my husband, if I didn't meet you and I didn't move to the U.S., I would have moved to Africa, and I would have gone and helped and teach French to children. And so, you know, it's in a way, it's interesting to hear your story and Sue's story, because I had that in me too, that I don't think I ever was meant to be doing a 9-to-5 type of job and be okay with that. And I respect, and I have, you know, I have nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. I have nothing against people that do that. But the world is so big, and there's so much to do, and there's so many people to see and to help and to talk to. So I have these little cards that I printed. And so if you don't mind picking up one of these, there we go, and then I'll have you pick one of these. What do you want to be remembered for? Haha, let's start with that one.
That I was kind. I think if all of us had a dose of kindness to give others, the world would be a better place.
Dream big and dare to fail. Well, I've been there and done that. I'm still dreaming. Hey, I got a cleanup pal, and I got dolls on a mission. Yes. And fail is not in my vocabulary.
You know what? You know, that is funny, because, you know, dream big and dare to fail. Okay, not to the word, but you know what it makes me think of in our conversation? What? When you talked about your bucket list. And you were saying, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go through it. I think this says you have to.
Yeah, right.
And you will. I believe that for you. Because also traveling nowadays is not as hard as it used to be. It's still expensive, but.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. If I could sell that cleanup pal to a licensing company, boy, the big bucks that I could spread around this world.
That is true.
Because sports people would love it, be something they could go to games and go into the tourist shop, and like, I need something to keep the car clean, you know, and instead of the tag on there, you would have a little hat, or you know, whatever you wanted to put on it.
Let me know when that Etsy page is up, because I have a little boy and I'm gonna need one of those in my car. So, you know.
Oh, well, they're ready to go anytime.
Nice.
They started at 50 with Volvo, but then there was a company, you know, so I thought they would counter on me, and they didn't. So.
Oh, there we go.
But
how much are you?
Around 35.
35
but if you want decorations, you'd have to tell me what decorations you wanted on them.
Okay.
But yeah.
That sounds like a fair price.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe if I put it on Etsy,
Yes.
I'd have to probably fill it, you know, what the $15 or so for, depending on where they're being shipped to. But last time I checked the post office, it wasn't that expensive. And I could certainly put a different tag on it. Like I say, the other ones, I have a New Mexico tag to put on. So I gave one to a friend in Farmington, and she gave it to her daughter, because she said her daughter had 3 children, and her daughter was very interested in keeping her car clean.
Oh, yes.
And I asked her, that was last year, and I asked her this year, and she said, oh, she loves it. She said even the baby, because it's furry.
Oh, yes.
The text,
nice.
and then the other 2 children do it, and they keeps her car. And like I say, it definitely will keep your car cleaner, because when I gave the first one to well, they had prototypes, but when I gave the actual one to my grandkids, they were looking for stuff.
Oh, yes, to fill it in. There we go.
Because,
I can imagine
and then
that.
on the drawing board, No, well, I'll do it. But on the drawing board, the next one is a dinosaur. And I have a patent on it. I do have a patent, a design patent that the state of Virginia or government or whoever found like they wouldn't give me a bona fide, what I can say, design, an actual patent, like because it wasn't new,
Okay.
because you can't patent a trash can. However,
Oh, I see. Okay.
but you can design a trash can, and I checked later on, and any act of using an animal as a trash can type scenario that you actually feed, you're feeding it, said it was part of the patent and they couldn't copy it.
Oh, there we go.
So if I could get some, and I was going to the Las Vegas, Nevada has a lot of these conventions. There is a trade commission on licensing, but it was the end of May and I had a hole in my body.
Yep.
So the surgeon wouldn't let me go. But May's coming up.
Next year.
Lord, Lord above, I'll.
You need to reach the right person, the right people.
I know.
So, you know, I mean, I'm not, you're my second guest. I don't know how many people this is gonna reach, but I will definitely put your link and information and all that.
So was there any other questions?
Yes, so I have a question from Melissa that I talked to before you, and her question to you, and of course she didn't know you were going to be my guest, but her question is, what is happiness to you?
Knowing that I some way will meet my Lord. That's my happiness.
Thank you.
I mean, I could say other things like,
Whatever you feel like saying.
but yeah, I'm going to heaven when I die. That's happiness to me.
I'm going to put Patsy for your name here, but would you like to write the question or would you like me to write it? Your question.
Your handwriting is prettier than mine.
Oh, okay. This was Melissa's, but
Okay. Well, let's see what yours looks like.
whew, so I'm going to ask you, of course you don't know who my next guest is going to be.
No.
But I would like you to ask that person a question, and same as for you, at the end of our conversation, I will ask them or found that person your question. What would you like me to ask them?
I'm going to go with the same thing. Do you know where you're going when you die? We all have to die.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pat. Is there, before we part ways, is there anything that you would like to share with us? Anything else that you would like to share?
Well, most went on overall. No, there's other little things, but something would have to jog me to think we.
Pat, thank you. You're a wonderful person, and I had a wonderful time with you.